So we're two childhood friends that have made a bucket list. We're going to fly around the world and tick every single one of these off.
Me and Jim grew up on the same street in a small town in England, and since we've met, all we've ever talked about is going on this adventure and completing this list of dreams.
For as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to travel the whole entire world.
And now, after years of saving, this dream is about to become reality.
Are you speaking English?
I've always had a fascination with the whole planet, the diversity of everything that there is to see, and you've only got one life.
Well, that's why we've made this list. Everything literally to do before you die. Because you're going to die one day.
Yeah.
You are going to be on your deathbed and you're going to go, I never done that.
That's my actual greatest fear.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what to expect when we set off on this journey.
I think you should expect the unexpected.
I mean, this is how you get out of your comfort zone. And it's going to be seen through the eyes of two little Englanders. And I can't wait.
You are watching The Adventures of Joe and Jim.
Hasta la vista, baby.
To understand the adventure we're about to take, we need to go back to the beginning.
We don't remember the exact date we first met, but it must have been at some point in the early 1990s, growing up in the era of Pokemania in the tiny estate we called home. It wasn't long before we started growing up and growing out of our limited surroundings, getting bored of the repetitive cycle of life and just waiting around for something to happen.
So the first chance we got to leave our small town, we took it. It was early 2013, and the idea was to take a one-year journey around the world. We saved what we could, packed in our jobs, wrote out a bucket list of everything we wanted to accomplish, and booked a one-way ticket to the other side of the planet.
Last hour in England, what's it feel like?
It's my last drink in England.
Last drink in England. Is it emotional?
Today was, yeah. Very emotional.
You're gonna like these are real videos, you're gonna like these.
First stop was Thailand, then on to Australia, where we found our money supplies were rapidly decreasing. We knew we had to find work, and quick, if our short-lived adventure wasn't going to come to an abrupt and untimely end. So we done what numerous backpackers had done before us, which was to find work on a farm.
I've got the worst bed in the whole entire hostel. And that's not even true. Everyone has said that to me so far. This is the worst room, the worst floor, and the worst bed. I'm in the worst possible position in the whole hostel.
Farm work is tough, but we were determined to keep the journey going, and that alone gives you the strength to persevere with the early mornings and long, humid days of North Queensland.
It was here that we met a Swedish amateur filmmaker who was travelling around Australia documenting his trip along the way. This was the first time we saw a professional DSLR camera and became interested in knowing how to use it. We then knew what we wanted to do: travel the world documenting our journey along the way as a memento to our future selves. After a year, we returned home, bought the camera equipment we needed, as well as enough cash to fund our next trip and start this documentary. So as before, we chucked in our jobs for another adventure, but this time we are going to record every second of it and complete our goal of finishing the bucket list. This bucket list will take us to the far corners of the world, but first it will take us on a 6-month journey across here, South America. Starting in Brazil, then on to Uruguay, Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Paraguay, Peru, Ecuador, and finally finishing in Colombia.
So we're all packed for our first destination. Brazil.
South America, always wanted to go there.
Yep.
Rio de Janeiro, the carnival. I'm looking forward to this one.
¿Cuántos días en Rio?
I think maybe 10 days.
Oh, Carnaval. Very good.
They crossed the Redeemer.
Sí, Cristo.
Cristo Redeemer.
Sí, Cristo Redentor.
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 Cristo.
After a long flight with little sleep, we thought the best thing to do would be to climb some stairs in 30 degrees heat. And what better place to do that than the famous Sambadrome steps? Located just around the corner from our hostel in central Lapa, the Sambadrome steps takes its name from the Chilean artist who lived here, Jorge Sambadrome. One day in the 90s, a frustrated Jorge looked out of his kitchen window and thought to himself, I really have to do something about the state of those stairs. I'm going to have to tire them. He then, over the course of the next 20 years of his life, proceeded to place tiles, mirrors, ceramics, and anything else he could scavenge to start his mad project, many of which were random tiles of pregnant black women.
Pregnant black woman, pregnant black woman, pregnant black woman. Another pregnant black woman. Well, no, she's not. She's white actually this time.
As we stood and stared at the 2,000 odd tiles that now make up the staircase, I didn't know whether to be impressed or slightly worried at how much this man clearly enjoyed tiling. We initially became aware of the steps due to a Pharrell and Snoop Dogg music video called Beautiful. And along with many like us, after seeing the video, flocks of people from all over the world visited here, most of them contributing tiles to add to his now massive collection, which couldn't have helped this man with what seems to be a clear tiling addiction.
You know, like in England, sometimes you get blokes come in the pub and they go, oh, fucking hell, Steve, got some tiling to do next week. The bathroom's about that big, I'll be fucked. Imagine doing this. We're going to re-grout it.
Jorge, however, would sadly never get to finish his tribute to the Brazilian people, as he died on the steps in 2013. It still remains unclear as to whether it was suicide or murder.
As midday came around, the hordes of tourists started to scale the steps. So that was our cue to head back to the hostel, where we met a local named Renata, who had some advice for us during our stay in Rio.
The Rio de Janeiro. No good. No go. In here, no go. This is favela. Stay here. Here is security. Here, very not security. Bem-vindos ao Rio de Janeiro.
We completely ignored our new friend's advice and headed towards the favelas, as her warning to stay away wasn't the first we've had.
Favelas.
It's bad.
See?
There are gangsters down there.
With the 2014 World Cup held in Rio and the Olympics coming in 2016, trouble in the favelas have dominated the news.
Crime-ridden shanty towns cling to the hillsides of world-famous beaches.
Burning buses are becoming a familiar sight. Gang members have torched more than 40 vehicles. They're angry about police efforts to reassert control over Rio's shanty towns ahead of major sporting events, including the World Cup and the Olympics.
Police forces apprehended hundreds of kilos of marijuana and cocaine, pistols, ammunition, homemade bombs and grenades.
Armoured vehicles move into Rio de Janeiro's biggest slum. An ambitious operation against drug gangs that run the shanty towns through fear and protection. But 3 days of fighting left dozens dead.
Slightly anxious, we headed for two of Rio's favelas, Villa Canoas and Rio's biggest favela, Rocinha. Formed by soldiers with nowhere to live after the Civil War and later by newly freed slaves, the word favela is taken from a plant that used to grow on these hills. As we squeezed through the cramped dark passageways the police find hard to navigate in, I felt like I was in that 1980s film The Labyrinth, but instead of puppets running around the maze, the passageways were filled with sleeping dogs, and around every corner we didn't know if we was going to run into criminal activity or David Bowie. There seemed to be no logic to the favelas, with passageways going in every direction, then randomly flowing through someone's kitchen or having a front row seat to someone's living room, before leading into darkness. In the back of my mind was the violence and crime I'd constantly seen on the news. But as we dipped into darkness once more, I could see the light at the other end. And what we saw was what the news always seemed to leave out: the beauty of the favelas.
Whoa. You can see they all have a cable TV stuff, very important, so they can watch the football games and the telenovelas, you know, the soap operas. You have to keep in mind that there is just one street going in the middle of the favela. Then it is a lot of narrow streets and steps, which is maybe the real nightmare of the favela. It is the access. If you live on the top of the hill, you have to go there by foot. Imagine in your daily life with your shopping, your kids, and if you get old, The objective is to live the closest possible from the main axis. It's not to enjoy the view. Okay? Enjoy the view is for the gringo.
The favelas were nothing like we'd seen on the news, at least not the ones we saw. These were filled with facilities for children to study, people living normal lives, thriving marketplaces and banks. Although the rich and the poor lived side by side, calling it a shantytown almost seemed derogatory. One day I hope to come back to the favelas and truly experience them. Talk to the people alone without being a sheep herded in a regimented tour group. But until then, it was back down the hill from the favela to our hostel, where people were starting to get ready for carnival.
Blocos, the only word you need to remember when it comes to carnival. It translates to block party, and there are hundreds scattered all around Rio, each one in competition with each other to hold the title of best party. To blend into a bloco like this one outside our hostel, you need a costume. Lucky for us, our friend Renata knew of a costume shop only a few blocks away. And with carnival already starting, we quickly headed to see if there was anything left.
How much? How much for this one? How's it look? Good?
Is this all the sizes I've got?
I don't know, I might just look at one of these. You want to try these on?
Oh, I see. Put it on wrong.
Not sure if this is the right size for me.
I will go to the ball. It's a great fit. Make it look alright for you. I'll take it. I think I'm ready to go.
I guess this is me. I'll do it.
Hola, amigo.
Rio de Janeiro. Carnival. We're heading off to Blocos. It's a street party. A couple blocks away. Let's go.
Hey, filma aí! Filma aí! They're nice people.
Carnival time is chaos though, isn't it?
Absolutely, man.
I would not want to be a driver.
Imagine working in that.
Impossible. They're jumping all up and down people's vans. They're racing around. It's like a zombie apocalypse is happening.
Colourful zombies jumping all over your
There's
lorry.
2 million people a day on the streets in Rio.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh my.
There's 2 million people. So 2 million people. It's like a complete zombie apocalypse. You've
And
got cars trying to go through.
And there's
people
Ronaldo on his shift going, for God's sake, and there's people on the windscreen.
I know.
So yeah, what I like about the carnival is there's the main bit that's the Sambadrome, but then you have all of these random little blockers
And they're all
everywhere.
competing with one another, all the different neighbourhoods.
They're all
blocks.
trying to be the best, and you've just got to look around the street and basically just search for one. You turn around the corner and go, there it is, and there's another blocker. And
Some of them are on. They could start at 7 o'clock in the morning. Other ones are on at 3 in the afternoon, 10 at night. They're
all different
on.
themed.
It's 24 hours, so you've got constant different ones compete with one another. All the different parts of North Rio, South Rio, East Rio. That's what's so good about it, because there's always one on at the same time.
Yeah.
So if
never
you
miss
can't
out.
make that one, you just go around the corner, there's another one. So basically it's 1 week of partying, and you just party all day, all night, go to sleep, few hours, then you get back up, you go back out and just find another block. Another block
Because it's
party.
24 hours, that's what I love about it. There's always something going on.
And even when you're asleep, you can hear dum 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 dum. Never ends. One bloke gave me his hat as well in Ipanema.
Oh, good for you.
Moving from one street party to the next, we headed for a blocko in the Flamengo neighbourhood. Now, when we set out on this bucket list journey, getting a girlfriend was at the bottom of the list. It was way down there under swim with sharks and do a skydive. So the only thing I expected to have after this blocko was a hangover, not a girlfriend. I never believed in that love at first sight stuff. They also say love is blind. Well, seeing as I'm drunk and dressed as a half pirate, half clown, I guess it's true. I guess it must be deaf and mute too, as I have trumpets going off in my ears and the girl in question can't speak a word of English. This is the story of how I met this girl.
Olá, eu vou falar hoje um pouquinho do carnaval, de como eu conheci o Joey e o Jim. Eu conheci eles no bloco da Orquestra Voadora, no Rio, no Aterro do Flamengo. Eu fui pra lá curtir o bloco e no final do bloco eu encontrei eles. Eles estavam filmando lá e uma mulher me ajudou a comunicar com eles, porque eu não falava nada de inglês. Estava tentando passar para eles o como é legal o bloco, né? Que ele une as pessoas. Nos blocos não tem diferença, tem pobre, rico, turista, negro, branco. E aproveitei o carnaval com eles. No carnaval mesmo a gente começou a namorar, eu e o Joey. E lá eu soube a história, né, do Joey e Jim. O sonho deles de conhecer o mundo. E eu fiquei muito feliz por ele ter escolhido o Brasil. Eu encontrei o amor da minha vida.
Yeah, what she said. With the help of Google Translate, we exchanged numbers and planned to meet again. But for now I had to go, as tonight we had a rendezvous with Renata to tick off the next part of the bucket list.
We're at the Sambadrome, Rio de Janeiro with our friend Renata.
The Sambadrome. Think of it as the Colosseum of Brazil, where samba schools ride into the arena not on chariots, but on whatever mad mechanical contraption they can think of. Where they use world-famous samba music and dance to not only batter their opponent, but also their feet. In this 9 PM to 6 AM dance-off lunacy to be crowned winner of the carnival. But first, to understand why it's one of the biggest parties on earth, you need to know what the carnival is.
Carnival was brought from Europe to Brazil via the Portuguese settlers who came here. They would have had one last big celebration to enjoy meat, before giving it up for 40 days during Lent. The word carnival in Latin, carnevale, literally translates to goodbye to me. Brazilians have kept the tradition of the European festival and blended with it the African slave culture of samba dance and music. Then they took a pinch of indigenous culture, wearing feathers, beads, and not a lot else, which I guess is why this guy brought his binoculars. All year, dance moves are rehearsed and floats are built to lead up to this moment. So the schools pick a samba queen to represent them. She is the most talented and beautiful dancer, and so they put her at the front. Remember at school being picked for the football team? This is no different. Put the best at the front and keep the useless ones at the back.
Toda escola de samba tem uma rainha da bateria. A de branco ali é a rainha da bateria. São famosos no Brasil.
As we watched hours and hours of tanned butt cheeks on floats, with no idea what was going on half the time, Jim started to realise that the music hadn't changed in a while.
Who's the guy singing for the whole thing? Where is he? There's one guy singing for the whole thing. Where is he?
With the night passing on and the pace slowing down, it seemed that people were already starting abstinence. As it seemed for Lent, the road sweepers had decided to completely give up on working. As the soon-to-be unemployed cleaners moved on, people were starting to look up at the sky. If the night wasn't crazy enough already, there seemed to be an asteroid heading straight for the arena. As the Sambadrome comes to an end, Brazilians see this as the beginning of the new year. The costumes are thrown to one side and discarded, almost like shedding skin and starting fresh, leaving an empty shell of last year's carnival by the roadside. On the way home, we found one of those shells, and like a hermit crab, we climbed inside and took it home to use tomorrow, for the last day of the carnival.
Let's go in the crowd.
Now, I would like to think of myself as a simple man, just an introverted guy in search of an ice-cold beer to enjoy on the last day of carnival.
He's not the main one.
So I thought everyone is wearing some sort of costume, so I'll blend in, right? Not when you're the only one wearing a Sambadrome costume. Overdressed and sober, I stood out like an injured gazelle in the African plains, quickly drawing attention to a wild herd of cross-dressing drunkards.
Definitely Brazilian, you're definitely Brazilian. I can see it in your outfit.
Rio de Janeiro.
I escaped. I had the ice-cold beer in my sights until, ambush, a flock of inebriated fairies surrounded me. Play it cool. If I casually dance, maybe they will leave me alone. It didn't work. The magical dancing fairies weren't satisfied until I performed the samba dance. Thankfully, our friend Renata gave us a samba lesson the night before, and I think it's paid off. The fairies were satisfied and disappeared into the crowd, while I, on the other hand, was still on my quest for that ice-cold beer.
The carnival was over, and realising the only thing we've consumed since being in Brazil was beer, it was time to eat. So the next day before hitting the main attractions, we grabbed Brazil's classic snack, the coxinha.
We're in Brazil. This is one of their national snacks, coxinhas. Gonna give it a little try. Stodge Central. Very thick. It's got chicken in the middle. I'm glad we bought that water because that is stodgy. See it? Stodge. It's alright. Try some of this sauce they put with these little Brazilians. It's like thick potato. And it's so hard to swallow. We walked all the way down here without a drink, so it probably didn't help. You don't want to be putting this sauce on. Whack. Take a look in there. That's alright. Not too bad. I probably wouldn't buy it again. It gets 6 out of 10 from me. 7 out of 10. It's alright. See you later.
With a belly full of stodge, we took an ear-popping cable car to check out the views from the top of one of Rio's main attractions, Sugarloaf Mountain.
You don't realise how fast it's actually going until you see one of the other ones fly by. Oh, the views are amazing. Whoa. That is quality. That is fucking quality.
Yeah, this is exactly how I pictured Brazil. Look at the favelas as well there, going into the mountain. But you see the whole city and they live up on the top and down there as well. They say they put Christ the Redeemer on the highest peak, not only to protect the city, but in front of the harbour, welcoming all the tourists from around the world. Just safety. Jesus Christ.
You actually feel like you're on top of the world, like you've just died and gone to heaven. This is like heaven, you finish your life. You're just like looking at everyone else, going about their daily business. Eagles everywhere as well. I was a bit prangy though, going on that cable car. Well wobbly. Look at the water though, it's like 1 million people are taking a picture of me as well.
Up here is 4 reals for a small little water. You gotta love that rip off. You gotta love that rip. Welcome to the gift shop on Sugarloaf Mountain. Look at all the display of these lovely gifts. Pregnant samba women. Like you want to be dancing when you're pregnant, right? Oh. Don't touch. Well, okay.
What else they got? No. Oh, I see.
The small few that have made it to the top of Everest leave a flag. It seems the thing to do on top of Sugarloaf Mountain is to leave a message, where it will most likely last 5 minutes before being written over.
Where the hell do we write? We're going to be up here for history now. The Adventures of Joe and Jim. The pen doesn't work. We're going to make our name in history. Now on Sugarloaf Mountain, forever.
Ricky, ven acá.
As our names get immediately defaced, we stare across the bay. High on top of Corcovado Mountain is the icon of Brazil that has been looking down on us since we've arrived in Rio, and has been high on the bucket list as long as I can remember. Today would be the day we finally come face to face with one of the wonders of the world, Christ the Redeemer.
I thought it'd be a lot bigger though, did you? Yeah, it's alright, there's too many people up here.
I never tell you how busy it's going to be up there, you can't even bloody move.
It is just like a massive ornament. It's exactly like the little ornament, it's exactly the same. I think the view's probably actually better. I'm not just saying it. I actually think the view is probably better than that. Still good though.
After years of waiting, yeah, I'd say it's alright here. Not as amazing as I thought. One thing I noticed, he doesn't even have any eyeballs. There's a detail in that. No eyeballs. How does he see? There's some weird stuff stabbed in his chest as well. Oh,
So, summary of Christ the Redeemer. It's alright, but there's too many thoughts.
Too many people. Many people
bumping into each other. Good, but it's not the best thing in Brazil, I don't think.
The views are amazing.
Just well too crowded. That's it. Christ the Redeemer.
Our time in Brazil had come to an end. Rio de Janeiro passes the bus window and into the distance as we drive towards our next country, stopping along the way to see one of the world's biggest waterfalls located in Foz do Iguazu. The journey will take a little over a day, long enough for us to reflect over the time we've had here and the people we've met. So many questions still unanswered. Would I see that girl from the carnival again? Or would she just be another memory from my travels, left behind like the carnival attire after the Sambadrome? Some questions, however, were answered. Were Brazilians the extroverted, beautifully tanned, samba dancing beach dwellers that we'd heard about? Yes, they were. However, Iguazu Falls showed us that Brazil was not just Rio de Janeiro. Far from it.
You get a nice lot of vapour. Cools you down. This is something straight out of Jurassic Park.
How could the 5th largest country in the world be explored in 2 weeks? If the national drink caipirinha alone holds a story dating back to the slave trade. It's not a question of if we will be back, it's a question of when.
Let's go. Break the leg. Bang. Yeah, come on. This is Brazil.
Where are you from?
London.
London. 4.
London 10.
I don't speak English, okay?
I'm from New York, man.
You're not from New York.
Look at this.
Brooklyn. Are you Jay-Z's cousin?
Jay-Z.
Yay.
Welcome for another bit.
I do a lot more coke than he does, but I'm a fucking Brazilian killer, man.
You're a lizard, a Brazilian lizard.
You want some lizard? I'm a fucking wizard.
You're a Brazilian wizard.
Hey, you wanna get high, motherfucker? You got some money there? What the fuck?
Joy, 0 Portuguese. Nothing.
Hola. Yeah, bom. You?
Joey, speak good morning em português. Bom dia.
É água com fantástica.
Joey, banadia.
No comprendo, amigo.
Não? Ok.
Sorry. Ingleses.
Come on here, speak in português. Say, please, master. Please, come on here. Oh, Bono, James Bono.
Where are you from?
England.
Okay. You look like Swedish.
You look Swedish. I'm a fuck, you look Swedish. It's full on.
Speak português and here, please.
Do them, but you never film it and then I'll do it all over again.
Go on then.
Bem-vindos ao Rio de Janeiro. English, welcome Rio de Janeiro.
Sounds good.
Como se fala?
Fala.
Oh.
E ela?
Cala a boca, Jami.
No le crean a nadie en este mundo.
Olha que coisa mais linda, mais cheia de graça.
Hey.
Are you filming?
Hey, brother. Yeah. I'm filming you. Yeah.
It's all a joke.
You're gonna be famous, man.
That's all I'm playing,
Hey, Joey, I very like Joey. Okay, boy, please don't forget me.